Where's everyone going? Bingo?
Okay, I'm just going to start this video off rather controversial because, well, it would make more sense to see where I'm coming from with this game. I did not like the original Resident Evil 4. I'm assuming part of the reason behind this is because I played the game years after release. I never actually beat it until a little while before Resident Evil 7 came out. I disliked how the game was to control and thought it just wasn't very fun. Granted, I really did like the character's story and overtop nature part of the game. I just thought dealing with Ashley and aiming the gun and how you can't move while aiming is lame. Mostly because I didn't like losing control in a game strictly to make the game more scary. Well, here we are all these years later. After a ton of other games and a few remakes, we have Resident Evil 4 Remake. And well, I'm on board. I think this game is easily one of the best survival horror games ever made. Not the best one made, but it's on the list. I still think Dead Space or The Evil Within 2 is my favorite, but goddamn is this game close, outside of a few issues I did have with it. This video is going to go over just about the entire game. The only things not mentioned will be the Mercenaries mode that was recently released because that isn't what I want out of these games, as well as some of the side content that you have to go back to find. I'm not a huge fan of backtracking in games, and in this game it was to get money or things used to trade for some items, and I just didn't need that. I knew what type of weapons I wanted to use and just stuck with those the entire game. If you haven't played the original or this, well, there will be spoilers. But with all that out of the way, let's jump in. The game starts off with a messed up sacrifice of some woman, and the game immediately tells you it's going to be a rough road to visit. It then goes over a wrap up of the last two games, which hey, if you'd like to see more about those, I made some videos about them. Resident Evil 4 takes place 6 years after the events of Raccoon City. You're playing as Leon S. Kennedy as he is tasked with finding Baby Eagle. She's somewhere in this unnamed location, which I believe is South America or somewhere in Spain, I actually don't know. Of course the two cops you see are terrible and fits the stereotype. They don't seem to care in general about anything, but they're only here for a moment or two. One of the cops goes missing and then you venture out to see if you can find him. Part of this is a change from the original game, but to make this video not ridiculous, I'm just going to focus on what the remake version does outside of some mentions here and there. As you explore this house, it is obvious something eerie is going on. You quickly gotta kill the guy that's hanging out there. He seems to be going crazy and comes back to life a little bit later. He killed the cop that left earlier, so you gotta go kill him. This is also a good time to mention how great this game looks. From the lighting to shadows and fidelity of everything, even coming from the recent remakes, I'm really impressed. You learn about Baby Eagle, aka the president's daughter, and that she was taken in the local village or nearby lake area. Leon gets surrounded and his badass Leon or John Wick style just jumps the fuck out of the window.
Gotta go. Talk later. I'll let myself out.
I love how over the top he does some things in this game, mostly when it comes to flipping around a bunch when it doesn't really seem necessary. Here's also one of the first instances of combat, so here's as good time as any to mention it. It's a survival horror game, but unlike the original, you can move and shoot. The main way of preserving ammo in this game, along with the future games, is you gotta try and wound the enemies and then kick them or punch them. Most of the time, Leon just kicks the shit out of them and do a crazy backflip, but I'm not complaining, it's just awesome, but it's weird to see every single time. He just walks up and just kicks them and does a flip. The village section is the one that most people have seen or played the series remember. You can start off with stealth or say fuck it and go crazy. I can't stress enough of how fun the combat is in this game, and especially how it starts off. Also, Leon is a dick if you burn the cow and let it stampede around.
Bill me for the repairs later.
The goal here is to hold off the zombies. Yeah, I know they aren't technically zombies, they have a parasite in them that basically has them all like a one hive mind thing, so to say. It's just easier to say zombies. I ended up killing a bunch of the villagers here, but eventually the bell rang so I couldn't take care of the chainsaw guy. It's kind of crazy to walk by them as they just stop attacking though. That ends up being part of the cycle of the game. Clear out an area, collect resources, move on. To keep things flowing, most of that won't be discussed since that is the main aspect of the game and is what is known about these games. Also, part of the footage was messed up here, but thankfully that got fixed a little bit past this area. One of my favorite parts of this game is just exploring between combat. The road building is fantastic of how it seems like a believable town. However, some of the strange stuff to me is that there's ammo and stuff laying around when none of these people have a gun. You eventually explore some more and find out that you hear someone locked up. This is Luis. He's easily one of the best, and I'll just leave it at that. However, this is the introduction to one of the villains as well as what is actually affecting everyone here. You get a parasite pushed into your body that ends up being one of the major story factors. This parasite is what is in everyone, and eventually when it hatches, you're just part of the group. It is an interesting take over the T-virus and whatnot from the other games. After the introduction of Luis, you are on your own without your equipment. This is a good stealth section, and I greatly prefer this over the original game. It was fun to make your way out of this area. You can now block attacks and parry if timed correctly with the knife, as well as do stealth kills with it. However, as you go on, these knives break down, but it's simple to get more or repair the broken combat knife. Once you get your stuff back, it's essentially the first time seeing the merchant.
Let's do some business then, eh? Welcome. I got something new for you.
Being able to buy and upgrade everything is great. I just wish this guy would shut up just for a little bit. Like, damn, just let me browse your wares, sir. You do quickly see that there are some of these requests that he puts up. These are fine. As mentioned earlier, I only did a few of these. Mostly just focused on the medallions. I didn't care enough to backtrack for enemies or for rats. That just isn't fun to me. But next up is another fun combat arena that is a pretty good way to keep the adrenaline up. You need to keep moving around since there's so many enemies, as well as collecting resources as you go and look for the seal piece that you need to move on. Areas like this is where Resident Evil 4 shines a lot. When in need, you can stop for a few seconds to craft some more ammo and check out the rooms that you may have missed. I'm glad a lot of this game is like this. You explore some more and come across a little house that gets ambushed by this big guy again, who mentions that your blood has accepted a gift, whatever the fuck that means. Okay, he just means that the parasite is starting to do his thing. You can say it by Ada Wong. I'll just mention this up front. I'm not a huge fan of her voice acting in this game, but to the point where people are fucking bullying her off the internet, it's a bit much. It's just different. Towards the end of the game, it grew on me. Plus, she's not in the game that long. People just overreact when it comes to things that are in their games, and well, the internet is just one of the worst places. So yeah. Hello, YouTube. You save a wolf and move on and try and get to the lake. This whole area is rather different from the original, and the game is better off for it. As you go back into town, it changes a little with the tower coming down and take off toward the area toward the docks. Along the way, you'll see a church which most definitely has Ashley inside of it, but there's a lock, so there's a long process to get into it. At one point, you must come across the merchant that has a shooting range. I think the shooting range is just bad, mostly because I was just lazy and never changed my sensitivity settings. Also, I'm playing on PC, I bet using mouse aiming was probably the best way to do it, I just didn't. You make your way through some combat arenas and get what is needed for the boat to start working. Here is the lake monster. This boss battle is simple, but works. There's this giant fish that you gotta throw these harpoons at. It wasn't challenging before, and it still isn't. But damn, does this area look good. You find out there are several places that you need to go to progress. There are these light puzzle areas with some combat. The main thing with these puzzles is that there are symbols on these walls to open up a door. For both of these I had a slight issue. At one point I just was visualizing the symbols wrong, and for the other place I just walked past the ladder where I had to go. Thankfully it isn't too crazy of an area for puzzles. Once you get the key, it's back to the church and yet another boss battle. This battle is fun, however with some of the aiming sensitivity it feels a bit off. I do also wish there was a damn dodge button outside of the times that the game gives you a button prompt. I don't know why they removed that great addition from the last remake. It made the combat way more fun. The wolf also shows up here and the cutscene is generally amazing to me. He really didn't need to have lightning, but goddamn is it great. We'll eventually fuck up this giant thing and then go back to the church. Here's where you meet Ashley. By the way, it's really funny that he says her last name. How many Ashleys are here?
Ashley. Ashley Graham, are you in here?
Just let me go.
Listen. Easy with that.
For the first time since like Eco, I like having an escort mission game. Ashley's entertaining at times and talks at the right times. However, she seems to be always out of breath, which seems a bit odd. Even when standing in the same spot for a few minutes. Thankfully she doesn't have a health bar in this game, so if she does end up going down, you can just pull her right back up without an issue. Her scared voice, by the way, is easily one of the best voice actings in a game. She does scream a bit much though at times, which I guess may be a weird thing to complain about. With headphones was a bit annoying. I can only guess what it'd be like to be a surround sound in an apartment complex. I'm sure neighbors would be easily concerned. The goal now is to try and leave this area and try not to collaterally kill these cows on the way out. No, really, how did this cow die? I guess in Leon's kick has a shockwave? On a side note, those who like the red dot sight, during my playthrough I was able to get it, however it seems they only works for like 2 guns and I didn't see any others when I played. I'm sure they're around somewhere. You then escape and find a house that Luis is in with you. It's a long combat survival section and it's extremely fun. Ashley is safe hidden away and you can go crazy against the zombies. Once you survive long enough, Ashley gets you and Luis to safety. Here's where you find out that Luis is working with Ada Wong, mostly in an actual helping manner. Luis is also trying to get out of here, but has to give Ada Wong the amber. This amber, you find out later, is something that has a parasite inside of it. Luis does help in all the ways he can. He isn't being selfish, he just gives off that personality like he is. Once you're back to Leon, you find out that it isn't safe to have an evac, so you gotta go deeper into the island and hope for the best. There's another big combat arena when Leon gets surprised by some chainsaws, and instead of backing away, he does this.
Great. Sorry, didn't realize that was yours.
This whole area is plenty fun, but it does lead up to another actual boss battle. I hated this boss battle back in the original game, I just think it's fine to an average at best now. When this guy attacks, you either block his attacks with a knife or dodge when the prompt comes up. I had some inconsistencies with the dodge prompt, however. Again, they should have just kept the dodge mechanic from the Resident Evil 3. It would have been in place perfectly in this game, especially at times when this boss throws shit at you. Once this guy is fully killed off, it's on to the next area. Also, Leon should see a doctor of how many times I got hit in the face with a burning pile of wood. The castle that has been in the background for a good portion of the game is now the next destination. Not sure fully why, I mean, the goal is to escape. That doesn't seem like the place to go, but hey, it looks cool and eventually find out that Luis has a way of helping Ashley and Leon to stop their parasite situation. I fucking really dislike this part, mostly because of the catapults. I wish there was an indicator for where the shot was going to land, especially since there's one for dynamite that gets thrown. Okay, well, part of the issue is on the final enemy here, I accidentally shot Ashley in the face and had to start the whole area over. Okay, I had to do it twice, but still, I just don't like this area. Granted, the second time Ashley got hit with an explosion while she was already down, so technically it wasn't my fault. But once you get through the area, you finally meet the one and only Short King Ramon.
To my castle. Such a pleasure to finally make your acquaintance, Mr. Kennedy.
Who the hell are you?
Me? Oh please, call me Ramon.
The early parts of this castle look and feel awesome. Something about exploring castles in horror games always gets to me. Especially with some of the claustrophobic parts that is here as you try to progress. As you get a little further in, you find out this enemy that can't see but can for sure hear you at all times. The goal is to sneak away from here, but you'll pretty quickly need to try and take it out. This boss battle isn't too challenging. Hitting the bug on its back seems to keep stunning it in a way that just keeps attacking the small area around it while moving its back to face you so you can keep shooting it. On the original, this fight was a little rough. I'm pretty sure Ashley was also here but I may be wrong. Exploring more is fun, mostly with the usual puzzles and items you need to collect because Resident Evil got a Resident Evil. I like this in these games. It's just weird after the last 3 games seeing how many places have things locked in certain ways. Like, why do I gotta set fire to this gong thing to open a door to get a sword to put on a painting? Man, writing that out just makes it sound even weirder. Anyways, after pulling out the George of the Jungle skills by jumping over these chandeliers, you gotta progress some more. There's yet another pretty damn good combat arena here. It's just a ton of fun to deal with large groups of enemies in this game, sniping some that are far away and watching those for trying to flank around you. They really nail the combat in this game. This room thankfully doesn't have unlimited zombies, so after taking your time with all of them, you can progress to the room before needing Ashley to do it for you, which thankfully for the enemies that swarm her, they all have less health. Thankfully after all this, everything is safe and happy.
Hurry up!
Little leg. Temperance, child.
Ashley. Wait! Shit.
Well, after you're separated, it's time to go and get her back. By the way, this is going to happen several more times. Here's also the first major talk of Ada Wong and Leon. I did just want them both to be happy and live happily ever after together, but that's not going to happen. She's still always a mystery, but compared to Resident Evil 2, she's way more of a mystery here. She's still a badass regardless. On a quick side note, I think I'm generally dumb because it took me forever to realize what this puzzle here was actually asking me to do. I think I spent like 3 minutes swapping some of these pieces before realizing what to do. There isn't too much to say about this next area. It's a gauntlet of enemies with a giant thing in the background launching rocks at you. It's fun. It's a good stressful arena too that makes you sure you avoid the rocks and all the enemies. Well, you fuck up the giant, have one decent jump scare, and get reunited with Ashley to get the move on with the story. Most of the next bit I don't have much to say since there isn't too much story. You get a maze to explore as well as some rooms with puzzles to unlock another puzzle, which ends up having Leon and Ashley separated again. However, this time you play as Ashley. I really like this part. Well, mostly. She moves a bit too slowly for my style, but it's interesting. You have to try and rescue Leon, but it's a process to avoid these Armor Knight guys. I do like how towards the end of this area, Ashley is just very vocal about how fed up she is with these guys, which I agree with. But in true Ashley fashion, she's captured. You kind of find out that they're using Ashley since she's the president's daughter due to how they're trying to control the world. By taking Ashley, they'll be able to get the president to be under their control and go from there. It's a plan. Not a solid plan, but it's a plan alright. And for some reason, they sent one fucking person to rescue one of the most important people in America. This sacrifice stuff they do for Ashley seems extremely fucked up. But of course, y'all get separated again, and you gotta try and find her. Again. For like the 3rd time now.
Aquí nos despedimos, señor Kennedy.
I seem to remember the next bits of this game differently versus how it plays out in the remake. There's an underground place that you just gotta make your way through with the boss that follows you around. All you gotta do is dodge correctly and hold out until the elevator shows up. I believe you're supposed to kill this thing, but the elevator showed up before I could, so I just left this guy. He doesn't come back if you don't kill him. There's also these freezing things that are in the area that slow him down so you can damage him. However, the first one of these things I seen, I pushed the button and well, that was a mistake. You then rendezvous with Luis and explore some and fight these 2 giant monsters. I don't like this fight. It's mostly my view on how you just don't have a proper dodge button. They walk too close to you and you pretty much get hit unless you actually have a prompt to dodge on screen. The goal is to drop them into the lava that's under the center. I can't imagine doing this on the hardest difficulty. But thankfully the next part is one of the coolest set pieces. You get to hop on some minecarts and have the fun little roller coaster view of the area to escape. It's fantastic. Mostly since it looks great and it's fun to get through. However, there's a rather bland and lame boss, Krauser. I think that's his name. Why the fuck is he here? Of all the people they could have had, is just someone that happened to train Leon when he was in the military? He's so stereotypical that it took me out. Oh, and he's the guy that kills Luis, so yeah, fuck this guy. At least the thing is, with using a knife for this boss battle is fun, even though the range to attack doesn't feel very good. Well, now we're back towards the castle, make our way through some more enemy counters, most of which are still top tier as always. And then easily the worst boss battle in the game, Ramon. I thought this battle was unbelievably terrible. With not being able to see these black blow-up bubble things on the ground, partly due to the brightness of the game, as well as this damn thing how it moves around the area. I did not have 1 ounce of a good time during this. It is easily one of the only things I found that the original game did better. But with him out of the way, we get some assistance with Ada Wong and get to another island for the finale area of the game.
You look like you've got something to say.
I have something to ask you. But I don't think I'll get a straight answer.
Since the last bit of this game is mostly just all combat, this part of the video will be rather different. It's mostly just mentioning the combat arenas to the final bosses. The first major combat is the outdoor area that has these turrets you gotta move around, as well as enemies that are harder to kill. It isn't too much of a challenge. Getting around is fun, and since the combat's the best part, it's a good time. You see Ashley and discover that you need a special keycard to continue, so that's the next goal of the game. But these enemies that you come across are called the Regenerators and are great and fucking annoying at the same time. They're great because of the sounds and general look of them. They're extremely creepy and they pull out the job of being terrifying very well.
fuck are you?
You do find out that you can kill them by shooting a few bugs inside of them. However, at some point they mutate and you gotta shoot them in the head. But that takes several shots, and that's the annoying part of them. It feels like they're hitting what you need to hit, but it ended up being like a millimeter off, so it doesn't count. Also, now is a good time to mention how much I hated these power switching puzzles. This is strictly because I'm a moron. My brain just couldn't comprehend what to do for some of them, and I just felt like I just had it, but I didn't. It's not the game's fault, I'm just dumb. Just wanted to mention it. With Ashley now saved, it's time to move on from the area and try and cure you guys from the parasites, but not before letting Ashley go ham on a wrecking ball. This arena is fun. Just find it silly that it's in the game, with how she'll scream like a banshee out of hell if someone gets close to the door on the little wrecking ball. And now for what's like the 5th fucking time you're separated from Ashley, who thankfully didn't shoot you in the face here. As you make your way out of here, you get to fight Krauser, who has one of the better boss introductions I've ever seen in a game.
I've been waiting for you, rookie. Oh, worried about the girl, is that it? That's just like you. You always had poor judgment. But if you think I'm gonna let you out of here alive, you're even more naive than I thought. You can't save her. You can't save anyone.
Give it up, Krauser. Being a lackey for these maniacs won't bring your men back. And what the hell for? Revenge on the government? You think they would want that?
Revenge. You think I'm doing all this for revenge?
Isn't that what this is all about?
See, in that jungle, I had a revelation. The most important thing in this world is pure, unadulterated power. Those Illuminados have given me that.
You know, you were always an asshole. But at least you had some kind of code. Some honor. And look at you now.
Enough reminiscing. Move out and draw fire, soldier! Better run, rookie!
Not like I have a choice.
Mostly with the soundtrack in the background and how just over the top it is. Feels almost like a God of War boss with that. But this battle is mostly surviving until you get to the final area of it. Use your knife skills and then try and fuck them up towards the end of the area. The final major combat arena is the full-on power trip. For a majority of it, you have the helicopter sent from base to help you out as you take out as many people as you can to get through and rescue Ashley. It's a blast, and I really don't have much to say about it. It has you use all your skills up to this point to take out all the enemies that you can, as well as get to not be overrun by them. You finally make it towards Sadler and Ashley and get rescued by the boss Ada Wong again. She takes out a bunch of zombies and helps you with being controlled by the parasite and destroy part of the area as you make your way towards Luis's lab. You essentially almost turn here, so you move very slowly as your mind is starting to fade as you walk towards the lab. Also, I'm going to count this as a lab, even though it's just one room, so that's not 4 games in a row that end you or going toward a lab at the very end of the game. With the help of the machine Luis made, you and Ashley are now cured and you finally get to the final boss, Sadler. This battle's fun. For the final boss in the game, I really don't have much to say about it. His design is cool and it telegraphs his attacks pretty well. Once taken out for the most part, you get to a different area and you keep shooting him until you get the usual Resident Evil fashion of Ada Wong throwing your rocket launcher to finish him off. With that, it's the final escape on a jet ski, which apparently I'm just bad at controlling. I hit the wall several times and lost half of my health here, but at least it was cool to look at. Thankfully it took one attempt. I remember the original gave me issues, unless it just didn't have the section, I'm just crazy, but I remember it being difficult at the same time. That's the story and overview of the game. Easily one of the best remakes so far in the Resident Evil series. It was great that they finally have a mention of Wesker again, how he's going to go full villain in preparation for the 5th game. I do think fans of the original game and new ones alike would find this easily one of the best horror games to date, even as remakes go. They made a game that I hated playing turn into something I would happily play several times, even with me not caring for achievements as I once did. The combat alone is one of the best reasons to get through this game. Ashley's ridiculous but fun this time around. She helps you as needed and she's mostly believable. I would think she'd be a little less helpless in general, but for someone in her situation, I'll allow it. I really have no clue how I would be if I got a parasite ingested in me after I was kidnapped into a different country that has a castle and a short king that's been alive for a very long time. I'd probably just freeze and accept my fate. Well, that's going to be it for now in the Resident Evil series. I've shot so many zombies over the past few weeks that it's time to take a little break and go into a different series or game. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you're a fan of the Resident Evil games, I have videos on the first 3 games already up, and in the near future I do plan on going into the rest of the games in the series. But up next would either be Sherlock Holmes, since that game is finally out, or Star Wars, or of course, Dark Souls, a game series that I've been putting out for goddamn way too long. Until then, see you guys in the next one. Cheers.